Hey everyone, how you doing? It's Peter here, and it's time for episode 18 of the PDG Advertising Podcast. So I was listening to the podcast from yesterday. Yes, I listened to myself in my own ears, in my own head, as well as speaking into the podcast. But I noticed yesterday that I was totally out of breath on the podcast, and it's funny how that can cause a deterioration in the quality. And the only thing I can put it down to is being just out of the gym. And I'm just out of the gym today. So apologies if this is not of optimum quality, but I will do my best to be as clear and as not wheezy and out of breath as I was yesterday. And yeah, we'll see how we get on. So today, something that we were working on was creating some new creatives for our customers. To give you an idea of how often we change our creatives at PDG Advertising, it really can vary, because if you have an advert that's doing really well and the creative's doing really well, then don't change it, don't move it, don't touch it. Let it run, let it roll. Plan around it to do better the next time. Plan to replicate the success of that advert, but a full revamp may not be necessary. If something's not working, if you're in the middle of a cycle of adverts and something isn't working, I think 2 weeks is long enough to give something as a test. So if you try a advert format and it doesn't work after 2 weeks, I think it calls for a full revamp of the adverts and a full redesign. And I think also, whenever you're coming to the end of a season or there's been an offer or something and you just need a refresh of the adverts, or the adverts start to lose their oomph, I think that's the time for new creative. And with so many customers, that time comes up quite a lot at PDG Advertising, and we're getting into a real rhythm with developing the adverts and refreshing the creatives in there, taking inspiration from everywhere. But the thing that keeps us focused is adverts online have to stand out. In 2019, there's a lot of distraction out there, a whole lot of distraction out there. This device that I'm recording this podcast on is super distracting in terms of taking your attention away from things that you are doing at any given time. So standing out in the newsfeed and being memorable is something that's very important. And I guess if anybody wants, and if there are any comments under this, or we get any comments about wanting to see some of the creatives that we have created after they've been made live, we'd be happy to do that with the customers that we've agreed that we can share that with. So in short, if you want to see some of these creatives that we're creating, you can just let us know. And it's not going to be too hard for you to let us know. We're on all the social media platforms of Facebook's, Twitter, Instagram, our website, email addresses, under these comments on YouTube, on Anchor, on any iTunes, on any of those. So if you make a comment under this, we'll get back in touch and show you some of these creatives. But what they basically are is news feed stopping creatives. They're things that just stop you in your tracks. If an advert doesn't stop you in your tracks whenever you're scrolling through that news feed, it's not a good advert. And that keeps us very, very focused whenever we're creating new adverts. So number one question is, does that stop us in our tracks? Now, you can go too far. There's plenty of videos out there these days that will stop you in your tracks for sure. And they might not be appropriate. I remember being told once a long time ago that any advertising that goes out must be professional, relevant, and must cause the user to take an action. And if you keep those three things in mind, and fundamentally that it stops someone in the newsfeed, then that makes a good advert. So yeah, that is something that we've been working on, and it's something that we're always working on at PDG Advertising. And today it just felt like we had got into a really nice, good rhythm, a nice groove with it today. So that was awesome. And let's see how these adverts pan out over the next 2 weeks. Interestingly, one of the adverts is for a home furniture and homewares business in London. You've probably heard me mention before, those adverts are on fire. We've actually, instead of them being ones that we're replacing or refreshing, we're just adding to them because we know the style that people are reacting well to, and that's good for us. So I'm very happy about that. And look, let's see how they go across the next 2 weeks. and let's see if we can't do a great job for those customers. Something that goes with creating creatives, and when I was talking previously about the creatives, I was talking more about the imagery being used, and we've nailed that. That's good. But in the imagery and also in the text of any advert online, now there's room for text in like a Facebook post or a tweet or an Instagram post. So getting that right is really important too. Really matters to get that right. So instead of just cobbling stuff together today, we spent a little bit of time contemplating what was most important in those taglines that we were creating. And I think what's most important is finding what the business is about, communicating what the offer is that you've got for the customer, and making it really clear and concise what it is that you're offering to the customer. If you can find out what's important about your business and what you offer, and then make that offer in an articulate way on an advert, you've really won, and that's a good thing. So that's what we took some time to contemplate today, and I think our adverts will be a lot better for it. But as I say, let's monitor those and see how they go over the next couple of weeks. So today we've got a delivery, 3 frames. So the office is really starting to look like a proper office now, and a proper advertising agency office. I think it's really nice. But Anthony and I today worked on our frames. We're putting up 3 pictures, and I'm going to share these across social media. 3 white frames with some pictures in it. And the first one is our customer values, which are customer growth, quality of service, and brand awareness. So those 3 pillars at the moment are the things that we're focused on for customers and ourselves. And that's going to be hung up on the main room where we're both in the main wall where we're both focused on facing. So we'll always remember that we're focused on those 3 areas. But in our team meeting, we also decided that we're going to put up another 2. So there'll be 3 pictures on the wall, and they are pretty cool. And I'm going to share them on Instagram tomorrow probably, but I'd be really keen to see what people think about it because they're really cool. I love quotes, but there are some quotes that are very special to me, and I've got a favorite one. So actually my picture on the wall is going to be my favorite quote, and Anthony's is going to be his favorite quote. So I think that's important, and it adds a splash of color. There's pink, green, and blue are the colors that are going on the wall. So it adds a little splash of professional looking color to the wall. And I'm really looking forward to how it turns out. I think it'll look cool. And I think, this is definitely starting to feel like we're creating an environment that's nice, somewhere for people to think and somewhere for people to do their work really, really well. I mean, on this podcast, I talk a lot about customers and what we're doing for customers. But my real desire is that we balance that with what we're doing for the team, for myself, and for my colleagues, Anthony, and the people that come on board ahead of Anthony. So that's really, really important. I think it probably just imbalanced at the moment because there are more customers than there are team members. There's only 2 of us and so many customers. So it feels like we work very hard for the customers, but we need to consider ourselves because we'll do a better job for customers when we are in a happy place and in a happy environment. You always have to, I think I always liken a plant that's growing. So if you don't nurture it, you don't give it a nice environment, it's not going to grow and it's going to die if you don't give it that oxygen it needs. And I think we as workers need to have a place to stand and a place to do our work and to do it well. So that's nice that that's coming together, and I'll share pictures on Instagram and on Facebook as well. So those images and the creatives that I mentioned earlier, I really want to get them into our portfolio, but we still don't have one. I mentioned this before on the podcast. We really need to get one. And it's something that next week I'm really going to focus on. I think this week we're a little bit heavy with the stuff that we have to do. So I think next week is a week, but they're in my mind. So the adverts that we have created today, they need to go in into pages of a book. But I really don't know how the book looks. I don't know if it's a web page. I don't know if it's a blog post. I don't know what it looks like, but it's something that has to happen because people do regularly ask, can we see our portfolio? Can we see, some trust and some proof? And it's frankly embarrassing to say, I don't really have one. It really is because we're focused on the customer and doing a great job for them rather than thinking of growth. We get growth through doing a great job for customers, but we really need to get that portfolio sorted. So that's something that we'll be focusing on. And look, I'll probably share that online as well. And that'll be interesting for you guys to see. It might bring to light some of the topics that I've been talking about on here. And any feedback on it would be cool as well. You might have noticed also that I've been creating little snippets from the podcast. And that's been fun. It's really nice to listen back to these podcasts and hear what you're saying a little while. Because whenever you're speaking, you don't really take in the full 20 minutes of a podcast whenever you're doing it. You're only really living in the moment. And then whenever you listen back to it, it can be a real joy to listen back to it. And I suppose this podcast is for everyone, but I'm getting value out of it. And I think that's why I've been able to keep it up for so long and keep doing it, because it's become something that is creating space to organize the thoughts from the day and to plan ahead for the next day. And that's something that's very good. That's something that's good to do, and something that I wasn't doing before, and something that if you're even slightly interested in doing, I would say do it, because I think that even if everybody said that this podcast was garbage and everybody hated it and everybody thought it was terrible, then I'd be okay with that, because and look, I'm not great with rejection either. so that's something that would normally bother me, but with this it wouldn't, because this is the true representation of the journey. And it's helpful to be able to look back, and going through those little snippets and creating them for social media is nice. It's nice to put them on. It's nice to hear them. It's nice to laugh about them. It's a good thing. And I think any business could benefit from this. There's probably, a service to be created in helping someone create podcasts for their business and helping them to be consistent with it. Like, you shouldn't need it. It's a book with what's going on in the day and a phone and the app Anchor. And you wouldn't even need the app Anchor. You could just use like your voice recorder on your phone or something like that. But it's so easy, and I'm seeing big value from it. And I actually think that it's having a positive effect on the business as well already. And this is episode 18 of the PDG Advertising Podcast. We literally are only looking at the surface. We're not even scratching the surface of what's possible here. And I look forward to whenever we're sitting at episode 100. And I still think we'll be tiny at that stage. We'll be really, really small readership. But every single person that listens to this is really, really valuable. Every single person that takes 2 seconds to listen to a snippet is, it makes my day, but it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. We'll have guests, we'll have, team members on the podcast eventually. And this is just the start of it. So that's cool. And it's a nice start to this journey for sure. So everyone, that is the end of episode 18 of the PDG Advertising Podcast. It's been a joy to tell you about what's going on in our day. If there's anything you'd like to hear, let me know and we'll make it happen for you. But have a great day, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Bye.